once again, I ask, how do we then suddenly are able to come up with vaccines within 6 months? These companies that have made so much money.
This is the Hustlers Corner.
Hustlers and squatters, brothers and sisters from all over the world, welcome again to the Hustlers Corner. Tradition says, let's click the like button, click, thank you. And then we click the subscription button. It's important so the family grows. Click. We're now sitting on 140,000 subscribers because of your support. Thank you very much. We keep growing day by day. We keep having different conversations to learn from different people. Guys, remember, this is an educational platform. So all these people that come here, they come from different industries and they just come to share their knowledge because we're all about wanting to learn. I'm quite excited because today we're interviewing my sister. I mean, we work together. We have been from Metro FM at the SABC together, Massive Metro together, and just having watched her work over the years of empowering young people, and they call it philanthropy. But for me, it's just doing what we have to do. It's just giving back. And for me, it's not even giving back. Like things like calling it black tax, because guys, some of us have to do these things. You don't even have to see it as a burden. Although I do know a lot of people out there, sometimes they feel like, no. But guys, it's things we have to do. And there's people like her who have just been doing it their entire career. It's just a part of their lives. To give you guys a bit of an idea in case maybe you might be confused. So you better show some respect, put some respect in her name. Radio, Positive Talk on Kai FM. 2003 till 2006, Metro FM from 2006 till 2017, SAFm 2017 up until she joined Umhlobo Wenene. She did Massive Metro. Talks, messages include but not exclusive to Life of a Champion, Living a Golden Life, Mind Your Language, The Art of Winning, Beautiful Woman, Sister's Keeper, Mercy Said Yes, Change Will Always Happen. She has authored, she's a best-selling author as well, audio wellness books, Positive Living Manual, her memoirs called My Memoirs, You Are Never Alone. She's done television work as well. Kaelo Stories of Hope on SABC2, the 3rd season. Youth health programs live IT on SABC1. Sexual health on DSTV channel 190. Tribute to Madiba SABC1. The Criselda Dudumashe show on DSTV. Positive Talk with Criselda on Khao TV. She sits on different boards and she's sat on other boards. SA Food Gardens Foundation, South African AIDS Council trustee, South African Women in Dialogue trustee. She's also a motivational speaker. She is an entrepreneur. She's a mother. And through her company, Positive Talk Services, she has developed health motivational talks through your numbers encouraging employees or individuals to make healthy choices. Health is not just about having all the relevant info, but it's about having the will to live and making the right choices. It goes on and on and on and on, working with the government and so many things that I can't touch. Your resume is so thick. Welcome, Sis Criselda.
Thank you. Finally.
Finally. I haven't seen you in a while.
In a while, hey? And
are you well?
Yeah, now. I'm very, very well. I'm in such a good space. Obviously, due to season change, sniffs, here and there, but we're surviving. Actually, no longer surviving, living. I'm living it. And how are you?
I'm blessed, I'm right. Nkulunkulu mkhulu, abantwana bayakhula.
Nentshebi iyakhula. I just had to tap into the discussion. It's been so fascinating watching that. No?
The last time I saw you, I think we were in a hospital room. It wasn't good times, but I'm very glad that that's the past.
Yeah.
And we did say at that time, I remember we were saying, at some point we'll be talking about this. So true.
So true. You must tell them that you also brought me a teddy bear, which stays in my bedroom as comfort to just, remind me of things that one has survived. And look at us now.
And you're still stunning, like your beauty remains. Man.
Some girl was saying, but Abu Mam said, I'm for no cook. I'm like, I'm seeing Ube was showing why must I cook up?
Is it covered? Come on, no. People are watching, or a new audience who might be watching all over the world. Who's Sis Criselda?
It's a very broad question, and it depends on who's asking at the time. because Criselda becomes a mother when you need a mother. She becomes a sister when you need a sister. She becomes a friend when you need a friend. She becomes a teacher when you need a teacher. So I do believe that I am many things to different people, and what works for you when you have an encounter with Criselda, that's who she becomes. But defining me for the audience, Criselda is God's favorite daughter.
Before we start with this amazing Criselda that you are right now, at some point you were a little girl somewhere.
Yeah.
And you grew up somewhere, and there's a journey that you've had to walk
Yeah.
for you to be this well-known person who's done very well for themselves. Maybe take us through that story before we get into other things.
Well, I think I was, 4 years old when my parents got divorced. And at 7, I decided, like any other child, Elokshini, you'd believe that your mom would do a better job. We had been taken, my mom and dad played this game, Ngabantwana, that he would come snatch us, we stay with him, he hides us at some relative somewhere, then mom also comes and does the same. So for 3 years post the separation, we had been all over, them hiding us in different relatives. So the one time, the next door neighbor's son was just touching me in ways that I did not have a language for. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't know who to tell. So I decided that I was going to run away. And I was 7 at the time. And I remember having to cross a river stream to get to the freeway because I had seen the car driving from Davidton to Wheatbank. So surely it's a distance that I can walk. My little mind was telling me that.
Davidton to Wheatbank.
Yeah.
A Twatwa to a Wheatbank.
Yeah.
Yo, that's like another hour.
I thought I would walk from there all the way to Wheatbank.
That's an hour ngemoto.
This is the thing, it's 90 Ks. How do you then believe that you can walk that journey? So the little girl in me goes into a bush, which is something that still fascinates me. And this is why I say it with conviction that I am God's favorite daughter, because I get into the river stream using a scrap metal. I just found a stick and wheeled myself to the other side. I had never seen a swimming pool. I didn't know there was such a thing called a swimming pool in my age at the time.
7.
Yeah, and where I grew up, those things were not there. They were in the suburbs, and I had never been. I had no reason being in the suburbs at the time. And I come across a tracker who asked me, but before I crossed the river, I went into a bush and I asked God to protect me from hohos and didn't even know what that means. And what did God do? Protect me from hohos. Because I get onto the freeway and I find this tracker and the guy says, Uyapi. I'm like, I'm on my way to Wheatbank. And this guy says, I'll take you halfway until Ochis, and then from Ochis, Sozos Bonela. No problem. And there's no questioning, where's home, you're a child. It was almost like I was guided, and this guy was speaking to an adult that I was walking with at the time. We get into the truck. He says that my employer is coming. When he gets here, you must just tell him that you are my daughter. And we both agree, I'll do that. Mlungu comes, speaks Fanagalo with me, and they fix the car, they fix the truck, and we go our separate ways. He takes me to Ochis, some colliery place, and we got there. There was his wife, gave me a nice bath, and the next day they went to buy me shoes and decent clothing, put me into a train, and off I went to Wheatbank. But unfortunately for me, I missed a stop. I got off in the wrong station, at the wrong station, and got lost and ended up a street kid. And I think that's where my advocacy for even changing the language about what we say about kids in the streets, that no streets makes babies. So why do we call them street kids? Because those are people's children seeking. And where is the village in ensuring that children don't end up living in the streets?
For how long was that?
For 2 weeks. For 2 weeks.
For a 7-year-old?
For a 7-year-old girl, I got to learn the importance of having a card box when you live in the streets, because that's your mattress. The importance of having a plastic bag, because it wraps you up for warmth in the streets. And, you know, that then became my journey. But what's fascinating is that years later, I went back to look for this place. It doesn't exist. Where we got to with the tracker, that place does not exist. Nobody knows about that place.
How do you explain it?
God's intervention.
Wow. My daughter is 8 years old, so I can only imagine.
Imagine
like
her.
In her, I don't even want to imagine her. Yo.
In her naivety, her worldview,
Yo.
for her to think I can walk from Davidton to Wheatbank. How does that happen?
How did you get out of it?
Well, eventually I got to my mom, and the excitement throughout the journey was that once I get there, she's going to embrace me. She's going to be so excited that this time around, she didn't have to fetch me. I brought myself to her. She'll be saying, well done, and. And I get there, she opens the door, she asks, Ufunanla. And that, I tell you, defined the young woman I became. It defined the leader I became. It defined the human being I became. Because I've had to do a lot of work to change what that meant for me. Because throughout my journey in teenagehood, I was always seeking for affirmation. Because when your biological mother rejects you, everybody else, when they reject you, they are justified. Because, I mean, if my mom doesn't show compassion and love, why should other people do it? So whenever you would become abusive, for me, it was vele fanele ngifile kanje because. So I've had to do the work. And this is why part of my advocacy is getting people to fix their heads. Locate where your head is, fix it, because masi limele with these wounds, we go around gaping them and oozing blood and pus in people who had nothing to do with those sores.
Hurt people.
That's it. And for me, if you don't fix that head, you go around being a perpetrator because it's familiar. You are familiar with hurt people, and therefore your language is that of hurting.
I don't know, something in my mind just made me think you were from the Eastern Cape. I don't know, I didn't know that you're from Ekurhuleni.
Because I've always taken pride in being closer. And a lot of people then assumed. But ebudaleni, in trying to figure out who am I really, I did discover that some of Abo Kananda, because wherever you go, you'll be told, Abo Kananda, it's a very rare surname. There was a time here in South Africa where I was also mistaken from coming, Ethiopia. When this xenophobia thing started, and I was saying, you know, we all Africans, we need to treat each other with respect. And they'd be like, Ninjalo vele niyakhulumelana. Mina was said to be from Ethiopia. So I found my relatives in Fort Mare, in the Eastern Cape, former Transkei. And there's a huge village there, Yagwa Kananda. And that's my connection to the Eastern Cape. But I was born in Davidton, went to school between Davidton, Wheatbank, and Sebokeng. So I call myself a Rechte Township girl.
A Rechte Township girl. Interesting. Do you have any Indian blood?
Well, it's a long story, because when I sat with my mom trying to find out what all this means, she said, Thandi Zindaba. And she said things I can't say on camera.
Yeah.
That I'm insinuating. So I left it at that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I can only imagine how you've grown up, because you're very, very beautiful.
Thank you.
You're stunning.
And I tell you, something as simple as somebody saying you are beautiful, for me, it was such a difficult thing to connect to. Because each time my mom would look at me, she was 16, 17 when she met my father. And at 18, her life had just been turned around to something that she wasn't ready for. As a result, in their separation, because I mean, all this started with him saying, this can't be my child. And each time she looked at me, she felt like I was representing the pain that she endured in her early teens. That she would hate the way I look and say, you took my joy away from me. So anybody that says umuhle, I took offense because ubuhle kim was associated with this thing that's so bad that caused my mom pain. So I've had to work on saying thank you, full stop. Something, other people would take it as something so simple, but that's where insecurities come from. So I've had to work on just saying thank you.
And how have you worked on your self-esteem, confidence?
This is the thing. I self-affirm. I did those affirmations ad nausea every day without fail. Look at myself in the mirror. Do say that you are God's favorite daughter. When God created you, he was at his best. After you are contently. You are the it girl. Like I would pump myself up until I believed it.
And how did you get into media and broadcasting?
That's another fascinating story because I had been 5 months pregnant when I had miscarried at the time. And a year later, when we tried again, I was 7 months pregnant. And out of curiosity, there was absolutely nothing wrong with me. I asked my then doctor to include HIV as one of the tests. And both of us look at each other and there was that laughter suggesting, what have you done? Why would you want to include HIV? And we both laughed about it. I only realized much later that that was part of stigma. So 2 weeks later, the results come back. I'm at work. This doctor calls and says, I've got good news and bad news. Good news is that all your other tests are perfectly normal. You and the baby are doing so well. It's phenomenal. And then I was like, but what could be bad then? Then he says, unfortunately, you have AIDS. Those who have followed...
You have AIDS or you're HIV positive?
No, I was going to explain
sorry,
Uguti. Those who have followed me would know how passionate I am in differentiating between HIV and AIDS. Because we don't say hypertension, stroke. So I don't understand why there's this narrative that you must say HIV, AIDS as though it's the same thing. Because what I heard him say was that you're going to die. And it's happening now. So walking away from his rooms, my options being that I can help you abort a 7-month pregnancy, which was crazy. And and then he told me that I had 2 years to live at the time. I mean, we almost a quarter of a century later, I'm still here. But what I did to make sure that this never, ever happens to anybody was every year when it was my daughter's birthday, I would take her and a bouquet of flowers or something and say, Doctor, we're still here. When she turned 10, he was like, I get the message. Because I felt like nobody should ever be put in that position. So I took it a step further, looked at how I felt. And as I was trying to find information, it was non-existent. So I approached SAFm and I told them I have this concept. I need to use radio as a medium to educate about wellness and just spread good news. And I was told good news don't sell. We won't be able to sell a show like that. Then I asked, what will it take? But you find a sponsor. And you remember Charlene, at the time, they just threw a figure. Yeah. At the time, they just threw a figure that if you can find this money, and it was a big figure. And I then said, God, you planted this seed in my head. I don't know what it means. You find the money. As I was walking away, received a call from one of the biggest insurers in South Africa saying, we've watched your journey. We want to do a campaign with you. We have this much money. And I was like, here's even a better idea. Let's do a radio show.
Can't do you, reading you.
That's it. So I just made sure that my investment in broadcasting was in knowledge. I am going to be a knowledge sharer. I'm going to give people hope. I am going to turn the term positive into an addition, something good, something better. And that was my point of entry.
I remember I'd see your beautiful Jaguar written positive GP.
That's it. I made sure my company is positive GP. My Jaguar is personalized. Like the first CD, the first audiobook was positive living. Everything around me had to just be positive for us to shift from this negative narrative that was just telling people you're going to die and you're dying today.
Yeah, because I also started knowing of your work from Kaya FM.
That's
and
it.
I would like to know, how did you expand it? Because from then on, from Kaya, you just blew up. You were just everywhere.
I always say that passion, not only does it pay your bills, passion will also place opportunities at your disposal, especially when you're authentic and you're genuine about your contribution towards fellow human beings as we interconnected. So for me, being on Kaya and receiving a call from one of the executives at the SABC saying, your message is way too important for a regional radio station. Come to a national platform. And at the time when I was called, it made sense. I never set out to look for radio opportunities. Radio chose me. And I made sure that whatever platform I'm given, because it then extended to television as well, that I don't take it for granted, that I serve through the medium. And this is why, years later, I know there's not going to be a moment where Criselda is spoken of and people think, who's that? From where? I do believe that at the right places where I was supposed to make my mark, I did.
How do you feel now that AIDS is where it's at in 2022 in South Africa?
I have joined it. For me, it's tragic because we're going back.
Why?
You have to be in my shoes for just one day to realize that as much as people are AIDS fatigued, most people don't know what to do upon diagnosis. Like, you'll be shocked that most people would say, the HIV, we know everything that there is to know. But upon diagnosis, somebody just doesn't know what to do, called Criselda. You have doctors phoning, my niece just tested, I've been treating other people, I don't know what to do for her. Because people have not personalized the risk of infection. So we are still as blank as we were when it was introduced.
Are you serious?
I did. I'll show you some of the messages I still receive to date.
Because in my mind, I would assume we've conquered HIV and AIDS in South Africa.
We've conquered the secrecy around it. That's what we managed effectively. But as for knowing how to personally look after yourself once you're diagnosed, we're still far away. And simply because of the way it was introduced. It was by design that we get confused. In the confusion, we'll focus on people's sexuality and not focus on what it means to being HIV positive. So we're still far. If we went, and what was fascinating for me, when COVID came, suddenly beetroot and garlic were fashionable. Nobody went back to say sorry to the late former Minister of Health, because suddenly everybody knew the value in good food, the new value in nutrition. But when she was raising it at the time, everybody was just pushing drugs.
And for somebody who doesn't know what happened at that time, somebody who's young, what happened at that time and what did the president say?
The president, I was part of the advisory team where he called scientists and said, I get it, I hear you, you are saying there's a viral infection that's killing people. But my knowledge, and I'm sure it's a knowledge that you're also familiar with, when you say there's an immune deficiency causing virus, how does it kill people? Because viruses have been amongst us for years. This is one of more than 30 viruses that we know of. How different is this one? What else? What could be more? Because I don't believe that HIV alone is a causative agent for all these deaths. So when you remove the alone, the sentence changes completely. He didn't say HIV doesn't cause AIDS. He said HIV alone could not be the only causative agent for people's death.
So the media ran with a certain
Oh
narrative.
man, I tell you, and it was by design once again that the narrative was perpetuated in a way that says president doesn't want to give people drugs. Now, medication in whatever form says before, after meals. And it still is very important that we connect to the understanding what type of meal are people being exposed to. You and I know, Ekasi, breakfast amagwinya. What is the nutritional value magwinyeni? Comes lunch, kudliwa. What is the nutritional value ekubikota? We call 7 colors only for Sunday. And we needed to be socialized different. So Manto was saying, knowing the people that I serve, I know they don't eat healthy. They need to know the value that you get in eating nutritious food. And most of us, nutritious food was a delicacy when kunezvakashi, kunomsebenzi, or Sunday. And it's something that we should be having every day. We come from an environment where we pride ourselves with having beautifully manicured lawns and not vegetable gardens. And when we go back to where we come from as African people, we were inventors. We had food. We didn't have to go hustling for food because you would have isibaya sakho sinenyama, you would have vegetable gardens everywhere. Imifino exchange as families. We moved away from that. Who we are now is partly one of the biggest challenges that we need to be eradicating when we talk about eradicating poverty.
During the 2020 lockdowns, I watched a documentary by a doctor called Dr. Judy Mekovitz. It's called Plandemic. This is during the COVID-19 lockdowns. And she touched on what happened decades ago about the creation of AIDS. And she mentions Uguti, she was one of the people who was working with Dr. Anthony Fauci back in the day. Yeah. And she accuses the higher powers and she says AIDS was created. What is your notion as far as that's concerned? Do you think it was man-made?
I don't just think it, I believe it, which it was man-made. And I say this because viruses have always been part of us. And in their nature, they mutate. And this is why almost 5 decades later, we still don't have a vaccine for HIV because viruses mutate. And in their mutating state, our bodies are able to just adjust. We just need to eat well. I mean, just to give you a perfect example on how our Creator already provided for some of these germs and bacteria that we'll come across. There comes a time in winter where we need a certain vitamin, which we find in a citrus fruit that is seasonally supposed to be in winter. How is that not nature saying, during this period, this is what you'll need, and this is how you'll prevent disease? But we're not engaging in that conversation. Instead, those with money just peddle and push the drug theory, and it's just so unfortunate because it can't be an answer for all our problems. We need to go back to basics. God said it, that you feed off seed, you will not be diseased.
Diseased. Yeah. With the COVID-19 lockdowns and the pandemic, whatever was going through, did it remind you of the AIDS time? Or do you think?
Oh yeah, it did.
Do you think it was something similar?
For me, the COVID pandemic, I truly believe it's just a pity that we don't have as bold researchers that maybe during the AIDS stage, we had many people who were bold enough to question nonsense that is presented as science. Because I look back, COVID was the most evil concoction. Whoever created it is the most evil species. I can't call them human because this thing is going to come back one day and haunt some people. And I hope and pray that when it's back, we will be there to witness. Partly you're seeing it. People are beginning to talk about the things they know. In what we were exposed to as COVID. Once again, I ask, how do we then suddenly are able to come up with vaccines within 6 months? These companies that have made so much money from something that was just, people who have been diagnosed with COVID will tell you that I felt like I was in a dark space, like I'm losing my sense of being. And it felt like it's an out-of-body experience. It was not natural at all. So, we go back to, you remember Gauteng had dug, 1 million graves. It was by design. They were waiting for 1 million of us to fall. And God, the African gods, said no, not with Africans. We were protected.
I think the whole world, especially Europe, I think, suffered more casualties.
They suffered more because they don't have the protection that we have as Africans.
Do you think our leaders knew something and they still went ahead with it?
I know they do. For them, it was more on changing the world order. I mean, for somebody to even come and say, there's too many of us in the planet, who are you to decide?
Sure.
Did you create the planet? Who are you to decide who must go and who must stay?
But as a leader of a country, I wouldn't allow that, though.
But this is what really
They
makes
probably
me
didn't
so
know,
upset.
though.
No, they knew.
I doubt they would
Look
allow
at the
such.
president was in Madagascar. President was in Madagascar, put his foot
Came
down.
with Mhlonyane
That
immediately,
in
yeah.
our country, we know things that strengthen immune systems. That's what we are going to use. Why couldn't Africa unite in that response? Who were they wanting to be the clever boys too in just making a decision that was not serving us? We didn't have a cure. So what was the push on vaccines that were clearly not thought through? I mean, the things that are in those vaccines, there will come a time when people will just keep dropping around us.
Don't say
and we'll
that.
be worrying. We'll be wondering what's going on. How do you explain these sudden heart attacks from young people?
Because
How do you explain these suicidal tendencies from young people? Foreign things have been introduced into our bodies. We are still going to suffer consequences on the decisions we made during COVID.
I hear a lot of people say there's like ingredients are like nanoparticles. Some people are, and don't quote me on this, guys. I mean, these are
things we read about.
we read about, and some
Fetuses.
people would say are conspiracy theories, right? They say there's nanoparticles. They say there's like graphene oxides.
Yeah.
Some people, they say there is some. Sure, it's even difficult to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then from there, I heard about that Pfizer side effects document,
Yeah.
and then I read it, and I didn't read all of it, but I saw that it had over 1,000 side effects.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you handle that? What do you think our government should do? Do you think they should come out and tell the truth to the
Must
public?
tell the truth. They must tell the truth and liberate us. They must tell the truth so that we begin to figure out ways. I strongly believe, even if you look around us, there's this generation that, I don't have a better expression for this, but ubungoma has been made fashionable. And from where I stand, our ancestors are asking, who are you at this present moment? We are being called to go back to basics and connect to who we are and whose we are. Because we have just been exposing ourselves to being used as guinea pigs. It's enough. Our ancestors are fighting. And in their fight, instead of us paying attention and going back and doing things that we are supposed to be doing, we reading that as ubungoma. And at times it's just, we being called to just go back to basics. South Africa is an example. People died for us to be able to sit in Rosebank like this. And how are we paying that forward? By twanging our way into sounding right and being a clever black? That's just so unfortunate.
And I remember at the time during COVID, you'd say anything that goes against what everybody was saying. It's like you'd get attacked, you'd be called names, you'd be...
Look, I have been called a quack. I have been called a denialist. They said that government pays me. That's why I say people would test to prove that they are not HIV positive. I was challenged to test to prove that I am HIV positive. And for me, it's like, bring it on.
With COVID-19 vaccines and what was happening at the time, we were all shocked. We didn't know what was going on. We had a lot of uncertainties and it was happening all over the world. Were you already aware at the time that this seems to be similar to what we experienced during the HIV time?
Yeah.
Or you're oblivious to it? Maybe you also went, you vaccinated, first, second, third booster.
No, I asked,
what happened?
Mina. I asked, because I did say, which I'm still waiting for the vaccine that you promised me many years ago, that an HIV vaccine is coming if it's a viral infection. There's no way you can come up with a vaccine in 6 months. No way. Unless it's a plan to depopulate us. Because there's just no way. Not with the way viruses mutate. So I wanted to understand, what is the modus operandi? Why? What is it that you want to do with us?
Did you take it?
No, I didn't.
And you believed in your health.
Absolutely.
What do they call it? They call it your natural...
My immune system.
Yeah, your natural immune.
Yeah.
Oh, young Tusalento show, because there's so many of my loved ones whom, everybody went to Java. Because that's what everybody was saying.
but
TV was saying that, radio was saying that.
No, but we also can't just walk away from the fact that all of us make decisions based on what we know at the time. And if media is informing you that this is the best thing for your health and you believe it, you are justified in making that decision. But I think people like me, we've gone deeper in just unpacking the meaning of consuming anything that you put in your body. What does it mean? What is it going to do? Where is this? Why am I taking this? I think for me, I started being suspicious when countries were given, they were forced to take insurance in the eventuality of side effects. The country must protect itself because the pharmaceutical companies are not going to take it.
We're refusing to be liable.
So, I mean, and the packaging said horrible things. Who wants to consume something that is going to bring foreign things into your system? Where you're going to have live things in your body in the name of preventing a virus? No, guys.
And
unless it's not a virus. Let's tell the truth.
Some doctors are even saying there's things that are actually
those things
taking
are
life
alive.
forms. Exactly,
Yeah, those
taking
things are
life
alive
forms
in
of
your
their
system.
own in your system.
Yeah.
Do you think they're trying to connect us to the internet? Do you think it's part of transhumanism?
I do believe that. I do believe that. And it's also very interesting that during that period, then we have movies that are foretelling. Who thought of a script like that? Like, come on. And the movie comes before the pandemic. Like, no, man. Somebody's busy cooking this thing, and it's criminal. It is just horrible. History is going to judge some people very harshly. And I hope to live to tell the tale that I was there.
And let me say to you, you're very brave. A lot of people who spoke out got knocked out, they got cancelled. Batugi, I mean, one of the prominent people who was very vocal about it was Usis Amanda Black. I remember she was vocal.
Yeah.
Usis Nsiki Mazwai, she was
Yeah,
also very
yeah,
vocal on
yeah,
social media.
yeah.
There were a lot of people who were just not taking it.
Yeah.
They were, questioning everything. But if you're that type of a person, you either get your account suspended
Oh, my
or
daughter
you get
was
cancelled.
chucked off work because everyone else had vaccinated. She was the only one, and they fired her.
You guys.
So we live in a very difficult period. And if you were to ask me, I would say as African people, we need to unite, figure out how we go back to learning about who we are, where we come from, whose we are. The reason Jewish people survive almost anything and everything is because they connected, they rooted in their culture, in their ways of doing things. Indians the same. even Afrikaners. Look at how Orania is thriving right before our eyes. And we're the only species that just are not connected to who we are.
Sure, guys. Get two seasons from a person like you. It's like, yo, it's things I've been thinking about, and it's like, yo. Then you just worry about everybody else who just believed this lie, if it is a lie, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We are
but-
protected by the divine. I
Thank
don't
you.
believe that something somewhere out there is looking out for us.
And as you are saying, sorry, finish on.
And I truly believe that that power, that force will continue to protect us.
And then Jobu Shoge, Buti, Tinage, like Africa, I mean, as now compare my number, it's like, then Gula Pobona Kon, Gutano.
Go back. There are just so many things. There are polios, there are smallpox. Many of these created gems with their gem theory, they never managed to eradicate us. The only thing they conquered us with is poverty of the mind.
Yeah.
There they succeeded, Shem. Yeah. There they succeeded, and succeeded to a place where we hate ourselves. When I see you thrive, I just don't understand, because you and I are supposed to stay down there. Why are you shining? Why are you thriving? Because it's not in our DNA. It's not who we are, according to what colonialism did to us.
Now we're forging ahead. It's 2022. You've written books, best-selling books. You've had successful TV shows. You've done a lot of successful campaigns. You've changed a lot of lives. You've shared a lot of information consistently for such a long time, and you've done incredible work. Wanted to celebrate you and just tell you with Siyabonga.
Oh, man.
You know, you probably don't get to hear it enough. And I was also blessed to have the opportunity to work with you. Just your humility, your love for people, your caring for young girls. Just like you want to have a sister like her, guys. Like, let me tell you, like she embraces you. She's just very loving. She's very professional. She's kind. She's all the good things you can ever think about a black woman. Most of them she is, if not all. And that is Sis Criselda Kananda, as I know her. And I got to work with her for about, I think it was a year or two.
It was a year or two.
And
yes.
thank you.
No,
Thank you.
Thank
It
you.
was
Thank you
really
very
great
much.
to learn from you. What are you up to now in 2022, and what's next?
Well, I was approached by the NUMSA investment company.
Oh, yes,
your friends.
Yes.
That we.
That's a black-owned company.
Absolutely. And I look at the stuff that that company is going to come up with. I'm telling you, it's a revolution unfolding right before our eyes.
They're now also in biomedicine.
Oh, absolutely. We have herbal products that have scientific backing. We're using CSIR to substantiate on the claims that we make. When we say Mhlonyan does XYZ, it is because that has been tested in a lab. So that when we fight and say we know what these products do,
You're backed by science.
And we use their methods in ensuring, because it's easy for me to take this kambi because it's something that was within my family. But now we're saying there's proof, there's scientific proof. We're coming up with an African manufactured vaccine very soon.
Wow!
Oh yeah. And there's just so much work that is going into that biotech business, and to be part of it in its inception, for me, it's just history in the making. And I just can't wait to see that company growing to a point where the members of the union, their children and their children's children begin to benefit from those seeds that were planted by their parents.
So, guys, NUMSA is a union, right? Represents the workers, the working class South Africa. It's got 300 or hundreds of thousands.
320,000.
320, no?
Yeah.
100,000 members, monthly paying members. And then they've got an investment company that looks after their interests. So they invest those funds. And then this NIC NUMSA investment company then invests on behalf of the workers, and then they invest in different businesses. And the reason why I know this is because at some point they were very instrumental in giving MOFAYA our leg up when we were still struggling to just get on our feet. And they invested in MOFAYA. They came on board. And at the time, I mean, I think it was a 12 million rands transaction, and there was some back and forth that happened, and some great things happened. And I think what we took from out of that situation was they were willing to help us. They were even willing to put their money where their mouth was. They understood our vision as a Black-owned company themselves. And they also own a couple of other companies, 360 Live. They also own the SAFm Medical Fund.
There's now SAFm and HOSMED major.
Okay, tell me more about that.
We bought HOSMED. We bought their book, so it's now SAFm HOSMED under one book. So it's 2 medical aids merged into.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. HOSMED was about to bounce out, and we said, bring the book, let's show you how it's done. So you now have this second biggest medical aid that is Black owned.
And then also one of their companies is Doves. Some of you guys know Doves. It's been around for many years, and they bought it and they made it a Black owned. So one of the companies that they own also is Doves Funerals. You guys remember, some of you guys would remember they supported Casper on his Fill Up the Dome. I don't know if it was Fill Up the Dome or Fill Up Orlando. That's when they also got introduced to MOFAYA at the time, and they came on board to assist us have a leg up. And I'll always have great respect for that company.
Gave a very decent send-off to Ricky Rick. I hope his soul continues to rest in peace.
And then I met Abu Makalo there, and then I got to learn a lot from, the likes of the great Bab Kandani Msibi. And it was just beautiful to experience a company run by Black executives.
Absolutely.
And Exco, just with Black people who are professionals, who know what they're doing, and who are running a successful business.
And having been exposed to that, you would know that I'm in such a good space where you're inventing and, everything you're trying out, that it's a first of everything. And we hoping and believing that we're not going to live this up to this group of people that came and invented, but make sure that as we rise, we take some with us.
Another beautiful thing about SAFm itself, is that it was actually started by 39 Black doctors. Yeah.
Absolutely. Black doctors who came together and said, and right now we also are putting together a group of pharmacists where we're going to challenge about this scam, challenge about clicks, because if we don't begin to unite and form groups that are going to use our strength in numbers, we'll continue just complaining at the table without having a perfect seat. The only way for us to do this is to use our strength in numbers and begin to close up the value chain. It's time.
I'm so proud of you. Ngiyabonga kakhulu, Sis Criselda. And other things that you're busy with? Family?
Well, Positive Talk still continues because I still do motivational talks. I still do plow back in communities. One of my passions is feeding children who just live anywhere. We have a feeding scheme where we go to places like at the villas where there's just so many lost souls there.
Oh, man.
And where I'm given an opportunity, I teach about God, that people get to know that there's always someone that's with you wherever you are. It doesn't matter who you are. And when you ask, you do receive. And I truly believe that we underestimate that concept in just empowering people to empower themselves. I also started a ministry. I know that when you talk ministry, people think that's so mfundis. But for me, it's just a cause that channels people to things they deserve. Speaking to widows and families, especially Black families, to stop crucifying, especially women, when their partners die. I'm looking at what's happening right now with Ricky Rick. Suddenly you have a family that cares so much when you have lived with your partner for years and they acknowledge that you are the partner. Once the person is no more, it's just, and it happens more with us as Black people. Why? Why standing to abantu abangasekho?
When that doctor diagnosed you and told you that you had at most 2 years to live, and you look right now, it's 2022, your daughter has grown, You've done all these
She
incredible.
just bought a
amazing-
car yesterday, by the way.
Are you serious?
She just bought a car.
Congratulations.
She just bought her first car. It was just such an aha moment. You
Oh,
know, I
wow.
couldn't help but shed tears. And I'm like, look at God.
Yo.
She should have died at 6 months and she's turning 24. And she's now employed. She's a graduate and God is good.
Wow. What goes through your mind though? I'm sure you're always grateful every day.
It was a
eh?
roller coaster. It was a roller coaster because I think for me, what even sealed there as mom, you did it, girl. It's okay to let her be.
Yeah.
Let her go figure out.
Yeah.
Was when I walked into her bedroom this morning, she had a candle and a Bible. She had just prayed to say thank you. I was like,
They say
Okay.
the secret is in gratitude.
I'm like, okay.
The secret is in thank
Girl.
you. Ngiyabonga,
I'm
siyabonga,
like, okay.
tamako, namaste.
Yeah. So yeah, it means proper ingredients went into grooming her, into developing her character. And I hope she continues in that trajectory. It will set her up apart from people who just make decisions just for the sake of making them.
Intentional parenting, right?
This is it. This is why it broke my heart when children would go and die in a tavern and one of the fathers say, Besmangele, why is this child not here at 4 a.m.? Because that's the time that she normally comes back at. 14-year-old, never, not in my house. Parents need to stop hoping that television and cell phones will raise their children on their behalf. Parenting cannot be, you can't, what's the word? You can't delegate parenting. You have to be actively involved. When they make decisions, I remember at one stage, my middle daughter, she had gone out, she was 25 at the time, and I started panicking and she sat me down and she was like, trust in what you taught me. Trust and know that wherever I am, the things you taught me are the things that are going to help me make decisions. I'm like, okay. More and more parents would want to hear that. So I truly believe that as parents, we need to take on our responsibility in raising kids, because I know as a teenager, I thought I know better than my parents until I became a parent myself, realized that without what they taught me, I would not have been able to teach my children.
Lastly, before I let you go, we always ask our guests to recommend at least 3 books. Either books that have changed your life or books that you think could be really good for our audience. What are those books?
For me, You Are Never Alone, obviously, by Criselda.
That's your
has
book,
to
yeah?
cut the list, yeah. And You Are Never Alone, it's a story, a journey where I talk about that there are angels around us everywhere at any given time. And getting people to talk about some of these family secrets. And also just encouraging people to just talk as families. Talk as families. Tell your children who they are. Tell your sons especially who their fathers are. Who are they? Because this notion of letting our kids just go around having babies with their relatives and we wonder why there's so much madness. We need truth spoken in families. And You Are Never Alone, tap into such spaces. And for me also, Viola Davis, she wrote a stunning book, I Am Viola. Oh, wow. I see myself in that story. And then you have Iyanla van Zandt as well, anything Iyanla. And I'll add Oprah and I'll add
Michelle Obama,
Yeah.
Becoming,
Yeah.
all these awesome books. Thank you so much, Ngiyabonga.
Nokubonga mina, thank you.
It means
Thank
a
you
lot to
very much.
ungishayela around. Dala ngagcina.
Nje. And we've been postponing this today. I was like, flu or no flu, I am
And
just
then
I'm
izifo
going.
sakifana neyami ithi flu ikwenzani.
It has
And
to
it's becoming
happen.
krofa and krofa.
Exactly.
At the beginning of the
but
interview.
But it's been always
It's
like
permanent.
that. So it's who I am. Yeah, but yeah, no, this had to happen. Thank you so much for inviting me. And you're one of those greats that I pray to God that you continue reinventing yourself Usbu Phunyuka Bemphethe, can never confirm him. Once you're looking at this, the other day I saw a truck fully blended, MOFAYA. I'm like, MOFAYA for sure. So yeah, no, glory to glory. And thank you for who you are and your conviction and investing in young people, paying forward from those who supported you as well growing up. It really is commendable. And I'm sure I speak for many mothers when I say thank you for being a present father as well. And investing in your daughter, knowing what it feels like to be loved by a dad. Because the reason we have so many challenges with women who are just directionless because of missing daddies. And you go around seeking abo baba in places where you're not supposed to be. But when your first love is your father, you know what it feels like to be loved. So you're not going to fall for anything.
And that message goes out to all the present fathers out there. Proud of you guys. Guys, I'm so proud of you. Like, I hope it is the way you guys portrayed on social media. We see you guys with your kids. We see your pictures. We see your videos. Yeah. Let's become intentional parents and let's be present, especially as I'm a timer, I'm a khurutmani, I'm a mentor, I'm a leader. Asibenda for intwana zethu. Kingosta rona, kintwana tsa rona. Arvenda arbaruteng. That's why we even create such channels, and I always love it when young people give us feedback. Yeah. All I watch is just your guys' channel, and in just this year alone, in 6 months, it's just changed the way I think, and I can feel that I'm growing as a young person.
And you guys have done something phenomenal here, because conventional media was closing out space for voices that belong in the public space. Because there are people who are broadcasting for popularity, and there are people who are broadcasting for a cause. And you are amongst those people who we can never not have Smooth's voice in developing characters of young people. Because what you know, what you've known over the years, you're sharing that, you're teaching, which is important. And we don't find much of that currently. In mainstream media, all you're finding are people who just, content is Twitter, which is just so sad. You'll find a station from morning to evening, just unpacking Criselda's outfit at the summers. It's like, please, man, can we just be intentional in what it is we invest in? Because knowledge will give us the power that we need. So yeah.
Purposeful living, purposeful broadcasting. Thank you so much for coming here and allowing us to celebrate you. We love you. We appreciate the incredible work you've done over the years with young people, spreading yourself out, sharing, writing books, TV shows, radio shows, the amazing motivational tours you've done, the conferences, the seminars, and just in being that voice that is fearless. And actually easy, you're basically doing, Penuel the other day was saying, it's a thankless job.
It is,
but we have to do it.
It is. When I quit radio, I remember sitting back and thinking, famous. Look at my bank balance. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You are judged by what you're driving, what you are wearing.
Yeah.
It's a thankless environment.
How
you look like, what you eat with. It's a thankless environment, but you know that it is purpose-driven broadcasting. I need to patent that.
Purpose-driven broadcasting.
That's it.
PDP.
This is it. Because, I mean, wow, what is happening right now is just so sad. It truly, truly is so sad. But it's gratifying when you've done something and you know that you've added value in someone else's life. And I hope more and more people will choose that path and not just want to be famous for the sake of being famous.
Last words, speak to them. There's your camera, especially the younger girls.
To the younger girls, I'll take you to ingredients that made Criselda to be who she is. My philosophy is on the 3 R's, that you respect yourself, you are responsible for the choices you make, and most importantly, Zokhala. Yeah. Because
emotional, no?
I do, because I feel like, especially young girls, We expect so much out of them. We don't allow them to be children. They have way too many responsibilities, and we have grown-up men who are trapped, or boys trapped in men's bodies who are abusing young girls. And that just gets me so emotional. So when you know that you respect yourself, you respect others, you are responsible for the choices that you make at any given time, and that your health, your happiness is your responsibility, no one else's. So make those choices. Anything that doesn't serve you, walk away from it. You are worthy, you are beautiful, you are incredible. Do believe it. And if you don't believe me telling you this right now, say it all the time. Go to the mirror, say it to yourself until it becomes your language, until you are familiar with that kind of talk, and you will not allow anybody to ever abuse you. And you know, like Sbu said, that once you've chosen a path, there will be people who are not going to like you. I'll say, Mal, you can't be liked by everyone. It's okay. Let them be, so you can be as well. And when people form opinions about you, it's just that, opinions. And if it makes you cry, you must deal with those tears. Why are you tearing? That means you believe them when they say things about you. An opinion is just that, an opinion. You are worthy, beautiful, incredible. You are light. You are here for such a time as this. Make your mark. Achiluzos binati. Take up space. Take up space, girls. I love you.
We love you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Guys, what a beautiful episode.
Thank you.
I'll see you soon.
Soon.
You're coming
Soon,
back
soon,
in a
soon.
few months. eh?
Oh, good.
There's always stuff to talk about.
There's always stuff to talk about, for sure, especially grooming our children.
Yeah.
Oh,
Umsebenzi
boys to
wethu.
men.
Umsebenzi
Oh,
wethu, yeah.
thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. We love you guys. We'll see you in the next video.
This is the Hustlers Corner.